Though it is not always the first thing people think of when considering Russian culture, Russia has historically been home to many amazing composers whose music continues to be prominent across the world today. Like many other countries, Russian music started out with a clear divide between sacred music, the music of the churches, and secular music, music for entertainment. The two did not begin to mix until Peter the Great came into power. At this point, Russian musicians began working closely with the Italians. Some Italian musicians came to Russia, but more commonly Russians went and studied under the guide of Italian composers before returning to Russia. This correspondence with Italy allowed Russian musicians to begin to develop their own musical style over the next century. Often considered the first great Russian composer, Mikhail Glinka achieved fame amongst his countrymen during the 1830s through the employment of a style that was uniquely Russian, but also incorporated the classic Italian approach. Glinka's works provided the basis for many later composers, and he is most remembered for his operas, such as A Life for the Tsar. Among those influenced by Glinka, and perhaps the most famous of the Russian composers, were a group known as the Five, or the Mighty Handful. As the name suggests, the Five were a group of 5 composers who worked closely together and established a clear style of Russian classical music. The 5 were led by Mily Balakarev, who composed works such as the King Lear Overture. The other 4 members were Caesar Kwai, who composed A Feast in the Time of Plague, Modest Mussorgsky, composer of Night on Bald Mountain, Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, composer of the Russian Easter Festival Overture, and Alexander Borodin, who is remembered for composing In the Steppes of Central Asia. Another notable Russian composer is Peter Tchaikovsky. A famous composer of ballets, symphonies, and operas, many of Tchaikovsky's works are still widely performed today. His most successful ballets are Swan Lake and The Nutcracker, and other notable compositions of his are the 1812 Overture, which Tchaikovsky performed at the 1891 dedication of Carnegie Hall, as well as the Violin Concerto in D minor. All of these works together make Tchaikovsky undoubtedly one of the most world-renowned Russian composers. Russian music is a distinct style, developed over hundreds of years, whose use of concepts such as heterophony, the use of 2 distinct melodies, and tonal mutuality, the shift from one tonal center to another, continues to be respected and studied not only in Russia, but around the world.